Hello, and you are listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Courtney.
And this week we're talking about Van Helsing. Woo.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand. Trust me, the book was better.
I'm pretty sure my half-assed woo is pretty emblematic of how Australians celebrate Halloween.
Pretty much half-assed.
Half-assed. I won't give the full ass. Not the full ass, mate. Just half an ass. Half-assoween, we should call it here. Because
Which really disappoints me because as the Lord Supreme of Halloween, I have no outlet for my passion for monsters and creepy things.
That's true. So, in typical half-ass fashion, we're doing a half-ass spooky movie.
Yes.
The scary Hugh Jackman in Van Helsing.
It's a terrible film, but at least, we picked this one because, Halloween is one time of year that my expertise on monsters comes in handy. Well, I mean, this and Christmas because, you know what? No one ever takes precautions against the Krampus. You have to take the Krampus seriously.
Krampus is coming back. I feel like there's at least 2 or 3 movies with the Krampus in them coming out this year.
Very important PSAs. You think, oh, Halloween's over. There's no spooky crap gonna come and get me for Christmas. Yeah, it will.
We've got the wrong weather for Halloween.
I know.
It's summer here. There's nothing spooky about summer. I mean, you can't, carve a face in a beach ball.
No.
It will deflate.
It really limits your costume choices. I am going to be the all-black Netflix Daredevil costume. That's my outfit that I'm going for. But even that, kind of warm.
Yeah. You look, skeleton. That's breezy.
But my original point was we've chosen Van Helsing because it's full of monsters and I get to geek out about monsters, so yeah.
And it's, definitely it is half-assed. It's a single cheek of a film.
Yes.
And you're about to find that out. I struggled with this one, I've got to admit. We've read some pretty ordinary books and some really bad books. And the thing is, this book isn't terribly written.
No.
It's not wonderfully written. And because of the content, it's just really dull. And it's very much like the film for me, where it starts off and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, this has promise. And then you forget just how laborious it becomes and how little charisma everybody has.
We watched this not that long ago and we got about halfway through and we're like, oh, you know what, this isn't too bad, it's alright, I don't know why everyone hates it so much, and then it kept going and going.
Did we get all the way through it? Because I remember us going to watch it, and I remember watching the Mr. Hyde stuff. I did not remember getting through to the end.
We did, we just started talking to each other more and more.
Maybe I was drunk, I don't remember anything. Speaking of which, we're doing this on a Sunday morning, we had a big quiz night last night, I am hungover, and I'm sure that's just going to add to my contempt for the source material, but let's see how we go. This is by Kevin Ryan, who is the author of quite a few original Star Trek books based on the original series, including Errand of Vengeance.
It sounds like a good classic title.
I'm gonna go down and get some milk from the shop to take revenge on my lactose-intolerant friends. And Roswell, remember Roswell, the series? I don't think I ever saw it.
No.
He wrote Roswell, Nightscape. And also another novelization.
Roswell and Colons go together.
Yeah. We'll have to do a deep probe to find out more about that one. And novelization of After the Sunset, the film starring Pierce Brosnan, Salma Hayek, and Woody Harrelson that I've not seen. Is that the one where she's naked in the beach? Maybe I've seen a couple of seconds of it.
I've heard about that one.
Yep, so not coming to an episode soon, I don't think. I can't imagine we'll get around to that one in a hurry, unless you, the fans, demand it. It's there's so many American podcasts around this time that really go all, Halloweeny. They'd be like, hello, I'm Spook Milton.
Yeah, we have not even done any sound effects. You made sound effects with your mouth.
Yeah.
No, we're not putting lightning and stuff in there. We don't have the budget for that.
I'm no Michael Winslow, but I try. You're too young to know who. Do you know who Michael Winslow is?
Of course, he came to Perth, remember?
Oh, that's right. Wasn't he not very good?
Yeah.
Well, no, like, he's good. I mean, he knows how to... All that stuff's great, but I thought maybe he wasn't very personable in interviews and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see him in person. They interviewed him on the news, so I did see him that way. He seems alright.
This is our new segment, Winslow Watch.
Yeah, Winslow Watch.
Fantastic.
Where is he now?
Where is he now? Yeah, he's in a helicopter. What? No, he's just doing it with his mouth. He's in a police car. No.
So deceptive.
You gotta watch him. He's a wily one. Hear the spooky Michael Winslow.
Are you just trying to avoid getting into this book?
Yes. Alright, the beginning. Victor, I'm so proud of you.
Elizabeth leaned forward and Victor Frankenstein felt her warm lips on his cheek.
See? One cheek. That's the one cheek you're getting today.
Yep.
He had to lean down slightly so that she could reach him.
Though not tall himself, Victor stood a head higher than his fiancée.
Elizabeth's blue eyes beamed at him.
He saw in them her excitement, her admiration, and for the 1000th time, he hoped that someday he would be worthy of her devotion.
Victor reached up and felt Elizabeth's shoulder-length blonde curls, taking her in.
As usual, she was neatly dressed, her curls tamed and close to her head.
Elizabeth was always meticulous in her appearance, even more so than Victor himself.
She had chosen the brown suit and tie he now wore, and as he looked at her, she gently pushed back a stray lock of his hair.
I'm here for the monsters, and this is a fucking fashion parade. This is like Crimson Peak. I'm having the disappointment all over again.
Also, this Victor is suddenly interested in Elizabeth. Usually he's just like, oh, not now, woman.
I'm just so excited that, I look at a suit... I go, I want to know what color it is. I want to know who chose it. I want to know what your wife's hair's like. Like, the monsters, they can wait. Let's take our time.
Also, the guy who plays Victor is quite old in this. He's usually supposed to be quite young.
He did it at like a fucking college bender, didn't he? He created the monster. So, yeah. He was like... lick it up and doing crazy experiments in college.
I love Harry Treadaway as Victor. I think he might be my favourite Victor Frankenstein.
I love the Treadwell droid from Star Wars A New Hope.
Stop talking about Star Wars. He's been talking about Star Wars all morning, guys.
Oh, there's been an awakening in my pants. So you would think that we're getting Victor, we'd be getting straight into the creation scene, but no, Victor is here at an auditorium to present some scientific gubbins while his swag friend Henry and Elizabeth watch. And if what he says here was all actually in the movie, it would easily be the first hour. Like, it makes Tarantino look succinct. Here is just a little bit of a taste.
Why does pneumonia sometimes take a healthy young man from us, and at other times allow an elderly man to recover? What are the forces that promote healing, hasten death? Why do some patients mend more quickly than others, while some never at all? God, someone remarked a bit too loudly, which elicited a low laughter from the audience. Victor smiled. He was ready for this.
He is gonna Richard Dawkins these motherfuckers. Absolutely. He's gonna take him out. And, look, I know you just said don't speak about Star Wars, but the Force is clearly strong with this guy. My subsequent work has suggested the existence of a force underlying even electrical impulses, a life force, if you will. I submit to you that this life force can be manipulated and focused through the careful application of electrical and magnetic forces, that this life force can actually be harnessed to promote health and healing. And then here comes like this whole 15-minute rant about midichlorians.
Yep.
And look, the fanboys, they do not like Victor's midichlorian talk at all.
Let's be honest though, we don't want the Frankenstein method explained. It's better when it's a mystery.
Well, in the book, it is a mystery. You don't even see the creation scene, really. He just does it and wakes up and goes, fuck. It's like I did this morning.
His face burning, Victor walked off. Even as he left the auditorium, he heard the disapproving voices of his colleagues. For this distinguished group, it was the equivalent of catcalls and the hurling of fruit and vegetables.
It was basically their way of saying, Victor Frankenstein raped my childhood. Get out of here with your midichlorian bullshit. So, look, he leaves, he goes home. Elizabeth still wants him, though. That's important. They start making their wedding plans. It gets a little bit Rise of the Silver Surfer there for a while. I was thinking, God, this book would be so great if Van Helsing was actually in it.
Yeah.
As advertised.
Quite some time.
But then he gets a visit from, less than an hour into his work, Victor's butler, Gerald, came to inform him that there was someone at the door.
Gerald seems like such an inappropriate name. I don't know why.
Victor's butler, Gerald.
Gerald.
Before he spoke, Gerald cleared his throat dramatically. Count Dracula! I asked him to return in the morning, but he was quite insistent that he see you. I'm sorry, sir. The hour is quite indecent. It was unusual. He had heard of a Count Dracula, but this could not be that Dracula. Poor Gerald looked distressed. Had he heard about him from the book, which was written 79 years after Frankenstein?
Yeah, what era is this supposed to be set in? Because it seems like this weird mix-up of 18th and 19th centuries. Also, either he knows Dracula and Vlad the Impaler are one and the same, or he's... I just don't want to think about it. Like, either way, you don't react to Dracula like, yeah, this is fine.
I'll let him in, yeah. Maybe he subscribes to Impaler magazine.
Yeah, because... Okay, so what have you heard of Dracula? Because anything you hear about Dracula must be weird, right?
It's bad news.
It's always bad.
Don't invite him in. That's the first mistake.
Yeah.
Here's our description.
He was dressed in all black. Oh, more costume description. Thanks, Kevin Ryan.
Thanks, Tim Gunn.
A long coat draping his body. The clothing was formal and had a vaguely military look, of a style Victor had never seen before. Most unusual was his hair, which was long, dark, and pulled away from his face. Perhaps the oddest thing about him was the single earring he wore in his left ear, a small golden hoop. Clearly the Count was nobility, but Victor had never known an aristocrat who wore an earring.
Yeah, who is this? Dracula or George Michael?
Oh god, this Dracula has to be the worst, most camp, over-the-top piece of shit I've ever seen in my life.
Well, Victor doesn't share your opinion, clearly.
Clearly.
This is a match made in heaven. Victor found himself drawn to those eyes. They were electric, intense, and warm. No, just very interested in him. After a few moments, Victor realized that he had been staring. He shook his head. He was being rude. A couple of rude dudes. About to get lewd.
No.
In the nude.
No.
Until one of them spewed.
Yep.
Because of something he chewed.
You got any more rhymes?
No, I think I'm just free-flowing. So why is Dracula here? What is his deal?
Should we do the voice?
Oh, go on.
Okay, my best approximation is, I am very interested in your work. I have learned of your presentation to the university, and I managed to obtain a copy of your Gold Star Fellowship application materials. I found your theories quite thought-provoking indeed. It's a little bit Boris Karloff, and a little bit, I don't know what, like a cartoon character. Anyway, Count Chocula, there we go.
Count Chocula. It's a little bit country and it's a little bit rock and roll.
Yes. Victor stared blankly at his guest for a hint of irony or mockery. He detected none, seeing nothing but sincerity.
See, I do love this thing that Victor entertains, just for a moment, that an aristocrat travelled all the way to his country, showed up at his house in the middle of the night just to mock and troll him. Victor Frankenstein, I heard you are a big stupid head. Oh, good night, sir. And he turns into a bat. He flies away. And Victor's like, fuck.
I don't know. Rich people do a lot of stupid things.
I know. Look at Richard Branson.
You know what? I was actually, I was just, doing my usual history readings, and yeah, Oh god, is it morphine or one of the early sort of painkillers and anesthesias that they used in medicine was just a bunch of rich college kids getting high as balls and realizing, man, I've hurt myself and I can't feel a thing.
Yeah, well...
Also, the motion picture cameras were invented because two rich assholes wanted to know, they had a bet that when a horse runs, all its feet are off the ground at some point. So they put all this money into creating cameras that can take photos fast enough, and then Thomas Edison sees and goes, You idiots, like, you've created this incredible thing for a stupid purpose, I'm gonna buy that from you, and you won't even understand what I'm gonna do with it.
Did the horse's legs go off the ground?
Yes, it does. So they were satisfied, those idiots were satisfied with their small-minded purpose of film.
Everybody wins.
Yes, rich people are cray-cray.
Now look, this really is another tale where a main character is coming to terms with the stirring of new, confusing feelings.
I swear I'm not picking these on purpose.
Those eyes, they were magnetic, drawing Victor in and making him believe the offer of a brotherhood and support of the kind that he had not had from a single human being. The Count was his only friend. No, that's not true, Victor thought. Elizabeth is that and more. And what of Henry? He'd only just met Dracula. The bright sincerity in Elizabeth's eyes came to Victor's mind, but he found that he was uncomfortable thinking of her in his visitor's presence. Just go with it, dude. Look, you know, all caught up about it back in these days, but now it's fine. Embrace it. So, Drac gives him the ducats he needs to start his experiment. And chapter 1, that was all just, we're 17 minutes in, that was all just like prologue.
Yeah, good lord.
Chapter 1 finally brings us the creation scene, except Hunchback Igor is assisting, proving once again that no one in Hollywood, I would probably say no one in America, has actually read the original book. Because Igor is not in the book Frankenstein.
Yeah, and Igor is one of those characters that, it's a total bastardization of the original story, but he is actually quite an interesting figure, because in less than a century, he's become such a stock character, and yet his origins are kind of complicated. So the assistant in the Boris Karloff Frankenstein was added because producers felt that Victor needed someone to talk to. Otherwise, he'd be narrating to himself, which is true, but, I mean, given the kind of unrealistic nature of cinema at the time, is that really a problem? I mean, it'd be totally fine if he's narrating to himself, but anyway.
Yeah, Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
Oh, wax recording cylinders.
Yeah, modern films are doing that.
Oh, a gramophone. Let's put this in this and see what we hear.
It's like a video game. But get this, even though he was the template for all the Igors to come, that assistant was named Fritz. The sequels, the Frankenstein sequels, do have a character named Igor, spelled with a Y, played by Bela Lugosi, but he's not remotely Igor-like at all. So how did we get the Igor we have today?
Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
Then Courtney, how do we get the Igor we have today?
Alright then, well, my best guess, doing a little bit of research, I'd say Young Frankenstein was actually the film that cemented that connection between the name and that appearance of that character to the masses.
Which proves that America, while not willing to read Mary Shelley, will watch Mel Brooks.
Yeah, well, I mean, Young Frankenstein's pretty awesome. And this is yet another example of name confusion in Frankenstein. Fancy that. Was anyone paying attention to that film at all? And another bit of trivia is that Dwight Frye played both Renfield and Fritz in Dracula and Frankenstein films, which were both released in 1931. And I will say, he is terrifying as Renfield. He's even scarier than Dracula.
I agree. He is a great Renfield. We watched that together, and it was awesome sauce.
Yeah, and it blows my mind that most of those Universal horror films did come out in 1931.
Yeah.
That's pretty productive, guys.
Mind blown. Look, this is actually, years have passed in the novel.
And our lives.
Yeah, just during your explanation there. And everyone normal has abandoned him. Even Elizabeth. It hurt to think of her, so much so that the Count had urged him many times not to. I totally ship these guys. I'm into it.
It's happening.
And here is the monster.
He moved to the structure that dominated the center of the room, a very special pod that looked like an oversized surgical table connected to electrodes and his precious equipment. Pod, that sounds incongruous, but anyway. On it lay his greatest creation, the work incarnate. A large figure covered in bandages, sewn together by Frankenstein's own hands, pieces from cadavers carefully selected and assembled using surgical techniques that his colleagues had yet to imagine. Yet it was only the beginning.
Van Helsing is in this book, isn't he?
Eventually.
He's going to turn up.
Probably in part 2.
Don't worry, we're gonna skip through the whole second half. Just as lightning brings the monsters to life, the pitchfork-wielding mob turns up. They do actually have torches and pitchforks, and this Victor loves his creation like a son, which is a complete opposite to the book, where he's repulsed by him and rejects him immediately.
Yeah, we never really knew what he wanted to do with the creature other than, I'm going to build this to prove that I can. I don't think he put that much thought into what happens after that.
Yeah, he didn't want any relationship with the thing. He just wanted to... He thought it was going to be like this awesome man.
Yeah, was it like a King Kong sort of thing? We'll just chain him up and put him on display.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably.
But this is interesting. He's worried that his aesthetically pleasing... that he's not aesthetically pleasing son. His ugly son. He says his son is not aesthetically pleasing, is what I'm trying to get at.
He's a fugly kid.
Look, he's a fucking ugly kid. I'm trying to dance around it. Let's not. Let's just say it. He is ugly.
Yep.
So he thinks everyone will see this ugly kid, who is a 7-foot man.
Yeah.
And he'll be seen as a monster by the villagers. Except the Undertaker, who leads the mob, says, "You know what he's doing in there to the bodies of your loved ones?" Which leads me to conclude then that these villagers had really ugly family members.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Cannington, the whole area.
Oh, yes.
All right. Yes. So.
I was going to say that Penny Dreadful, because, Penny Dreadful's actually doing a pretty good job with Frankenstein. Although I've not seen 3rd season, so, yeah. But they actually do explore what it would be like if the creature and Victor had this sweet and loving relationship. And it's just weird.
They wore matching sweaters and spent a hell of a lot of time in IKEA.
Yeah. Although, I gotta say, it's nice to see that possibility explored, because the book does make you think, what might have been? What would that be like? Not permanently. I think the book is perfect the way it is. Well, mostly. Except for that chapter where the DeLacy's have this girl over and she's being taught about the world or some shit.
Anyway, Drac turns on Victor and...
Victor felt the pressure on his neck as those long teeth pierced his skin, somehow reaching much farther than could be measured. The physician inside him knew that Dracula was drawing his blood, but another part of him knew that the Count was taking much more than that.
It wasn't just a physician inside him. I think he died of a broken heart.
Yeah.
Much like Padme Amidala.
Yep.
In Revenge of the Sith. So Dracula wants the monster, but the monster mourns for his dead father, and then the monster, I think, supposedly dies in a windmill fire, and we find out Dracula has 3 brides called Alera, Verona, and Mariska. And again, I'm only rushing through this because we really have not seen any Van Helsing, and in fact, a whole another year passes, and then finally... A man dressed completely in black approached the gates of the Vatican. He was tall, with a large cloak that billowed after him in the early morning light. A wide-brimmed hat partly covered his face, and one had to come fairly close to see his long hair and countenance, which was handsome but unshaven and careworn. The man's eyes were dark and his mouth set, perhaps even cruel, though no one ventured near enough to see these details. Bloody Hugh Jackman.
Huge jacked man, yeah. He's not your grandfather's Van Helsing, not some old professor man. He's all rugged, and they've turned him into a kind of Solomon Kane anti-hero who, yeah, like the rest of this film kind of looks like he's from the 18th century for some reason. It should also be noted, well, not really, none of this matters because it's Van Helsing and shit, but for some reason his name is Gabriel, not Abraham, so is he supposed to be an ancestor? Actually, no, I'm giving this more thought than the film did, so...
I'm just happy that our fellow Australian brother is here to represent.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman on Van Helsing! I'm gonna kick in your decks, monsters, get out of here.
That's Sam Worthington.
Yeah, but all Australians sound the same, right?
No, Hugh Jackman is charming.
And we often make fun of shitty metaphors, but this author, one step ahead of us.
Thanks, Kevin Ryan. The Vatican was the seat of the Roman Catholic Church, the spiritual center of the Western world. It was constructed with only one way in and one way out, like a fortress. The metaphor was a good one.
All right, calm down, pal. We'll take your word for it. And look, if it wasn't enough to have Hugh Jackman, we've got David Wenham too. This book is Oz as fuck, mate. Oz as fuck, mate. Put another fucking sausage on the barbie for Wenham. Wenham's here. Van Helsing! A voice called out, and he turned his head to see Carl approach. Carl. The name in here.
Oh, yes.
Carl. His plain brown friar's robes billowing around him. Frying up some fucking sausages.
I know, like, the monk in Vikings has a name like Athelstan. You're expecting a name like that.
Carl's blonde hair was always a mess because he was catching some waves down at Bondi. Its shape marked by the tendency to turn up at the sides, and he never had less than a day's growth on his face. Of course, the friar was both a religious man and a what? Scientist, inventor, scholar? He was all of those things. His mind never on fewer than 3 matters at once. It was no wonder he was less than meticulous in his grooming. Look, he's a top bloke, you know? He's not like one of them metrosexuals or anything like that. Look, he's gonna let some stubble on his face, eh? He's gonna chafe some thighs with that thing.
Alluding to scenes to come.
Anyway, look, Wenham is essentially Q, right?
Except not as adorable.
And the Cardinal is kind of like M?
Yes.
And he's
not as sassy.
And he's like, look, get the fuck to France and sort out Mr. Hyde. Another character from a book that will not be written for quite some time.
It's not until the 20th century that's written. So, like, all over the place. Doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter in this.
But, pause, put a pin in that, because we go to Transylvania, where Prince something or other is capturing a werewolf sent by Dracula for some reason or other.
Because no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so some dude, Prince Velkin.
I loved him in Flash Gordon.
Yeah. Of the proud Valerius family. Anyway, he quickly ripped loose of his bindings as the hunt came full circle. The blood medium had set out as bait, already worked the werewolf into a frenzy, though it had been momentarily lulled by the sacrificial post. Some of the superstitious villagers still use such posts to make offerings, human sacrifices to quell the monster's hunger for blood. Now the tradition came in handy, whatever.
That was not a very Halloween-y, like this is werewolves and stuff.
I know, it should be badass, and it's just like, nah.
I actually think it's very dangerous to put out one of those meat traps, because they're after a werewolf, but they could have caught a Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's true.
They always are thinking of their stomachs.
Yeah.
Velkin does screw it up, and his sister Anna Valerius has to step in, and then she screws it up, and then Velkin saves her by shooting the werewolf, but not before getting bitten and falling off a cliff.
Why are there so many cliffs in movies?
Seconds later, the creature was gone, replaced by an old man in the last moments of his life. Anna could see the bullet hole in his chest. Velkin had not missed. "Thank you," the old man whispered. "You killed my brother," she thought. "No, not you. That thing you became." He gave a thin smile. "I am free from Dracula's awful grip." And then Dracula's like, "Oh yeah, you're enjoying my grip just a minute ago, girlfriend."
We noticed that Stephen Summers seems to have a thing for brothers and sisters. The theme is repeated in Mummy. Nothing creepy, so that's good. But yeah, these Valerius siblings are so boring. I do not care. I literally could not care less. And Kate Beckinsale is essentially playing her character in Underworld again, but worse.
Meanwhile, in France, as he walked the streets, Van Helsing made sure the mask covering the bottom half of his face was secure. It would not do to attract attention now, because nothing says inconspicuous like a bandit mask.
That's like in Assassin's Creed. You're walking around with a hood on, and no one else is. Oh yeah, he's not going to stand out. White hood.
And the French do not like Van Helsing either.
they thought he was the enemy. If they only knew about the real dangers out there, they would drop their baguettes and run for the hills.
Yeah, maybe they just don't like your broad racial stereotypes, Helsing.
What an arse.
You're racist.
You know, it's funny hearing stories of France from American tourists versus tourists from the rest of the world. The French do not like American tourists, and they do actually go out of their way to be arseholes to them. Whereas everyone else is like, oh, they're so sweet and kind.
And Van Helsing is in the Notre Dame Cathedral, which would be a great place to confront maybe the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but no, instead...
The very large figure dropped in front of him, hanging upside down from the rafters, snarling gutturally. The muscular creature was at least 9 feet tall. Oh, is this the creature? Oh, that's weird. What's he doing in France? And looked like a man without all of his It looked like a man with all of his finer qualities removed. His hair matted, his brow exaggerated, his skin hairy, sallow, and rough, the large jowls with greying mutton chops, and mouth that dripped saliva. Mr. Hyde wore no clothing save for a pair of torn trousers. Those trousers that just seemed to be able to withstand anything. Where did these Hulk trousers come from? You know, it's like you're a little guy 1 minute, you're 9 feet tall. You know, I think we all need trousers like that, don't we? You never know when you're going to transform into a monster.
Hulk trousers, please.
The monster would have looked completely animal-like, but for the burning cigar clamped between his rotting teeth, the smell which did little to hide the stench of death and decay that emanated from him. Hyde's malice was also was as palpable as a chill. So, as a kid, I was really confused because I really did think it was supposed to be the Hunchback. Which would have been cool, because I think he's one of those universal monsters, probably the universal monster that gets forgotten the most. Probably him and the Phantom of the Opera, both played by Lon Chaney Sr., who is amazing. We did watch the Hunchback movie, and it's alright. What we got out of it was the word jackanape. That's my new favourite word.
Jackanape, I love it.
And,
if you go to the zoo at the right time, you might see a jackanape.
Oh, yeah, so, now...
Lost in a world of reminiscences.
Oh, yeah, no, I was actually thinking about how impressive Lon Chaney is in terms of, like, physically transforming himself. I think he was one of the first sort of, character actors. Anyway, so...
I was thinking about the YouTube video where that monkey, like, puts his finger in his bum, smells it, and falls off a log.
Classy.
Yeah.
Now, Jekyll and Hyde is another story that is misunderstood. I don't know how many people have read the original. It's not that long. But this movie and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen depict Mr. Hyde as this Hulk-like creature with, as I've said, magical trousers, when in fact he's described as basically Jekyll with his posture and mannerisms having changed so much that he's unrecognizable. I love that. So he's actually like this small, creepy little golem guy. It's cool. And, Jekyll is also not quite the tragic figure he's often depicted as. In the 1931 film, he was trying to separate man's good and evil natures, whereas in the book, he just kind of wanted a means of disguising himself to indulge his darker desires. We're not told what that is, but it's probably not good. I would say that James Nesbitt is my absolute favourite performance of Jekyll and Hyde. Other than black contact lenses, it's all physical performance. Amazing. I mean, Jekyll's written by Stephen Moffat, so it has the usual Stephen Moffat problems, but otherwise, he's brilliant.
This episode brought to you by Stephen Moffat's Jekyll, available on Netflix. So
Probably.
I guess now we're getting to this routine where we're basically going to get a lot of long fight scenes peppered with lame banter. Mm-hmm. And here's a sample. Before the monster could even react, Van Helsing slashed downward. The circular blade met Hyde's raised left arm, and a second later the severed limb was on the floor, failing for a few moments as if unwilling to accept its fate. Howling in pain, Hyde dropped the bell with a crash, splintering the wood floor as Van Helsing rolled free of his temporary prison. I bet that was upsetting, Van Helsing remarked. Hard to believe that this character, this charming, witty character, just didn't take off. Where's our Van Helsing 5?
This really is such an action film of its time. Like, early 2000s were all about, it was still being influenced by The Matrix, where it's all just CGI and...
There's no character here.
Absolutely nothing.
It makes you appreciate just how much character for action movies are put into, like, The Avengers, for example.
Oh, God. Guardians of the Galaxy, or any of the, there's just so much humanity and character and fun. There's no fun in this. It should be fun. There are monsters fighting. How do you screw that up?
Anyway, Hyde eats shit.
Mr. Hyde was dead, and he had died a man, not a monster. Van Helsing had been very lucky more than once during the course of this encounter, but he felt neither victorious nor fortunate. Instead, a hollow sadness opened within him.
So, before this incredibly sensitive and beautiful Van Helsing can get too emo about it all, the hateful French charge in and basically want to beat him to death with their baguettes. So, Helsing hightails it back to Rome, and Rome, they are frustrated by his methods and the fact that he has become the most wanted man in Europe. So, why do they put up with his renegade bullshit?
When we found you crawling up the steps of this church, bloodied and half dead, it was clear to all of us that you had been sent to do God's work.
Oh, so God wants it. Yeah, well, that does make sense. Okay, carry on.
God works in mysterious ways. Also, this is yet another case of an ancient war against monsters that the rest of mankind are not allowed to know about, and have somehow successfully kept secret the whole time, which is ridiculous and boring. I much prefer Hellboy's approach. In the comics, the BPRD just wander around in public and it's no big deal. They're like Ghostbusters. It's awesome. The Hellboy movies, however, do fall into that secrecy trope. Why? What is with that?
Say it loud and proud. Get out there and bust. Because busting makes you feel good. You may as well do it. If it feels good, bust them ghosts.
No shame in it.
The next mission for Helsing is to go to... I feel like this should have happened about 10 minutes into the podcast, but it's happening 37 minutes in. The next mission is to go to Romania and sort out all of this Dracula stuff and deal with the gypsy family who have been trying to wipe out the vampires but keep dying. That's the Valerians, whatever they are.
Valerian steel, yeah, that.
And this means he's going to end up helping Anna.
She was perhaps 20 and looked very beautiful and very dangerous. She had long dark hair that fell in rings halfway down her back. Though she was wearing tight black riding clothes, she had the look of someone who had seen battle. Her eyes were striking, piercing, and framed by thin, rounded eyebrows.
Tell us about her rounded eyebrows.
Oh yes, they looked like they'd been professionally plucked and waxed. Flawless and symmetrical. Anyway, there was something wild about this woman. Something in those eyes. Perhaps it was the gypsy blood. And this book is filled with a lot of awkward, slightly racist, slightly sexist comments. There are a number of times that Anna, I don't know, or the brides of Dracula are compared to little girls, like, oh, underneath that warrior exterior, she was just a little girl who wanted her brother back. Oh,
yeah.
God.
So Helsing sees Carl and wants a Gatling gun, something that he's heard was invented by a clever American named Gatling, which is true, but it did happen about 60 years after Frankenstein.
Were they used in the Civil War? I thought they were. Anyway.
I looked it up.
All right.
And then we discover that legendary monster hunter Van Helsing doesn't really know the first fucking thing about monster mythology either. Carl shot him an appraising look, staring at him as if he were a particularly dull child. It was a look that seemed to be the specialty of religious men. You've never gone after vampires before, have ya? Van Helsing shrugged. Vampires, gargoyles, warlocks, they're all the same. Best when cooked well. What does that even mean? And does it strengthen your case for a Gatling gun?
That's one of those. It's like I feel like at least every novelization I've ever read, I'm gonna write them down. The line that the more you think about it doesn't make any sense.
It's like, oh, I caught a rabbit, let's cook it. I'll cook it with me Gatling gun. Oh, fuck, where's my rabbit gone? That didn't work at all.
Also, it just occurred to me, so, he shows up at the church steps and he's all wounded and crap. Could he perhaps be Jean Valjean? He just got amnesia, and now he's a monster hunter.
I'll throw him in. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean...
Throw him into the soup.
Both Hugh Jackman, so yeah.
Then the brides attack a village.
Oh, how am I going to do the awful voice? Anyway, why can't we just let the werewolf kill her?
No, this one.
No. Oh, that one. Oh, right. I just wanted to get through this as fast as possible. I'm skipping down. Skipping down.
No, look, stay on target.
Alira flew and dove between two mountain peaks. Mariska and Verona followed her. It was an effort for the other two brides to keep up. They were not as skilled in this or other more important areas, such as pleasing their lord and master Dracula.
Yes, when it came to pleasure, Mariska and Verona were all teeth. Now they're coming for Anna, and you can do the voice.
Why can't we just let the werewolf kill her? Mariska asked. Typical lazy and cowardly, Alira thought. Verona gave Mariska a condescending look. Never trust a man to do a woman's job.
Yes, these ravishing sex slaves are definitely winning the battle of the sexes here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also, if you haven't seen this movie, they are practically identical to the brides in Bram Stoker's Dracula, harem pants and all, which I don't get as a design choice. I think you had a problem with the...
I don't like them. I don't like those kind of pants. I don't think they're sexy at all.
What it would be much better, I'm quite partial to that vampire look, the long black, very fitted dress. Yeah, that's cool. That is a vampire bride look.
I like naked.
Or that. They could, actually they do fly around naked, but they're also weird bat creatures, so it's just creepy.
Van Helsing kept firing, trying to get a bead on the brides. He chose his targets carefully, leading them to compensate for their great speed, but he wasn't able to score a single hit. I never realized until reading this book how absolutely useless Van Helsing is. Why is he even here? How is he the most wanted guy in Europe?
This book just highlights how terrible the character is. When you're watching, you're just like, yeah, whatever. It's there, front and center. For the second time, the princess landed on top of Van Helsing, this time with her thigh straddling his face.
It was hard to figure out who was the bigger pussy. And this dialogue... Too bad, so sad, the one called Mariska said in a sing-song voice, turning in the air toward him.
You must remember, terrible Transylvanian accent as well, so it makes it even worse.
And, look, it takes many pages, but Helsing finally kills Mariska, which makes the crowd hate him even more.
One of them stepped forward. He killed a bride. He killed Mariska. He killed a vampire. He's saying it as though it's a bad thing, Van Helsing thought. He looked over at Carl, who appeared just as confused. The Undertaker approached with an amused smile. The vampires only kill what they need to survive, 1 or 2 people a month. Now they will kill for revenge, only 1 or 2 a month.
So basically, the executives are like, let's pin our new multi-million-dollar franchise on a character that cannot do anything, doesn't know anything, and that everyone he encounters absolutely hates.
And not even Hugh Jackman can save this one. I mean, he's basically the most likable man on earth. How do you do that?
Anyway, look, Dracula is pissed when he finds out about his missing bride, and, but more importantly, who are these guys?
Looking up into the rafters, Dracula saw his dwergi perched along the beams. Short and squat, they looked much like the trolls of human lore. But they were very much alive, one of the few groups of mortals that Dracula found useful. Their masks and goggles made them frightening, which pleased him. He likes spooky shit. They had other purposes as well, especially now.
They're described on the villains wikia as demented German dwarves, which I think would be an excellent band name.
It's pretty cool, actually. And they are actually from Germanic and Nordic mythology, so unusual cameo. But
throw them in. Throw them into the soup. Because this is an incredibly boring book. It is really now just all laborious episodic plot with no human connection to really anchor it.
Yeah, Kevin Ryan is not having fun at all. I don't think he gave a shit about this movie either. He's just bashing it out, turning it out, and on to the next thing.
Helsing goes back to Anna's and she sneaks out at night to find a werewolf, which he does. And I've included this werewolf encounter just because, it's a Halloween episode and this is the first thing of note to happen in a while. Anna turned to head for Valerius Manor, and then for the first time in her life saw a werewolf in the flesh. The monster loomed above her, blocking her path. It was more than 7 feet tall, powerfully muscled, and standing on its hind legs like a man, its breath blowing white vapor in the cool moonlit night. The creature's face was more wolf than human, with large pointed ears and a pronounced snout with large canine teeth. the only quality that distinguished it from the face of an animal was the terrible intelligence in its eyes. Standing less than 10 yards away, the creature was utterly still and silent, watching her. See, that could be like a bit from a better novel than this.
Yeah, just that there are tiny glimmers of cool bits, but for the most part, yeah, very dull and repetitive. And I loved werewolves as a kid. The werewolf in this was alright. I mean, it's quite similar to the ones in Underworld, that sort of anthropomorphic wolf look was quite popular, apparently, around this time. I kind of prefer the Wolfman design to that, like this, like full-on CGI or puppet dog. I feel like I just disconnect from the story because once they're fully transformed, you're dealing with an animal. It's kind of like Ginger Snaps. Ginger looks great when she's half transformed, but once she's completely transformed into a wolf, it's just not the same. Mild spoiler for Dark Shadows, as if anyone cares. I really liked Chloe Moretz's werewolf.
I didn't know that happened, but that made me actually want to watch Dark Shadows, so there you go.
Yeah, her clip is her little scene.
Yeah, you did say clip.
Clips.
Okay, alright.
Well, you could literally just watch the clip on YouTube.
Okay.
So, yeah. But of course, you know, American Werewolf in London is probably the only movie that really gets the traditional werewolf story and look right.
That is fantastic, but a lot of it, the actual werewolf itself, when you see it walking around on all fours and it's kind of an ungainly puppet, like that thing in Never-Ending Story,
yeah,
that's kind of a letdown. But the whole
they
transformation and all those times where they don't show the werewolf, but it still attacks, it were pretty great.
Oh, and the sound of that howl.
Yeah, it's the best howl.
But yeah, do you prefer a wolfman or a man-wolf?
I think I like a man-wolf.
It does look pretty badass. It doesn't make any sense, but...
well, what about the ones like in The Howling, when they're like big prosthetic-y, crazy... You know, they're sort of like the CGI werewolf, but done practically.
Yeah.
They're that big hulking wolf person.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, I also like the ones in Order 1886, I think, that video game. And their designs was like, they don't have that much fur. They're like these very tall, grotesque things. I think they were quite cool.
I want to borrow that. Let's do a swap.
Yeah. Why is it that we've seen vampires reinvented over and over and again, but for some reason, werewolves are essentially stuck in the same story?
Because wolves have been the same for a very long time.
Apparently. I guess because you've grounded it on wolves. They can't be anything else. Whereas a vampire, they could be a bit rat-like. They could be a bit cat-like. They could be, yeah.
But wolves are always wolves. They're not ducks, suddenly.
Yeah.
This is hot, though. I like this.
She wondered, or will he play with me for a while before he eats me?
I would advise that gentlemen do, or ladies play for a while first. Her brother is there, though, and then there's a fight, but wasn't he dead? Or then I'm confused, because is all of this a dream?
Yeah, this scene, I was just skimming. I'm just like, what happened? Anna shook herself awake. Something was wrong. It was still dark and she shouldn't be here. She should be out there fighting. Van Helsing, he had done this to her, drugged her and put her to sleep so that she would not go out alone. He was impossible. He had no right.
Van Cosby, am I right? It was okay back then to drug a woman.
Apparently. If
she wasn't going to do what you wanted her to. But then there's a werewolf in the house, and the werewolf is her brother.
Isn't that the worst werewolf in the house?
Yeah. And then what about like a political thriller called Werewolf in the House? And Van Helsing chases the werewolf into town. And again, I'm having that same experience as we had every time I watch the movie. I'm enthusiastic at the beginning, and I'm intrigued, almost enjoying it, and then it just goes on, and I just drift.
Yeah, and keep in mind, it's a little over 2 hours. It's shorter than Age of Ultron, but you feel every single second slowly tick by.
And apparently Van Helsing wasn't already unlikable enough, so...
Anna ran up behind him, and Van Helsing furiously grabbed her by the throat, pinning her to the nearest wall. "Why?" he shouted. His grip was so tight that she couldn't breathe. "You're choking me," she spluttered. "Give me a reason not to," Van Helsing said through clenched teeth. Anna stared wild-eyed at him, frightened, but he could see that she wasn't about to tell him anything.
Chapter 8, in which Van Helsing chokes a bitch.
Yeah, bloody hell.
Why would you think that this was a good idea to have Hugh Jackman choking women in a film, like of something that you wanted to be like a franchise? It's just crazy.
There's nothing likable in this film. It's just
I got a question though. What's happening with the Dwergy?
Demented German dwarves. Dracula watched the dwergi at worky. They were disgusting creatures, even by his standards, but even the living could have their uses.
Well, he was down a bride and he put in a storm. And oh god, the other thing that really struck me is Anna talks about family more than Vin Diesel. That was frustrating. So I thought, let's just fast forward to Dracula's plan. Van Helsing and Anna came around a huge stone column and stared at the odd sight that awaited them. Hanging from the rafters, the ceiling, and various beams were dozens of gooey, white, maggot-like cocoons. Slime dripped to the floor as a putrid stench filled their nostrils. You ever seen these before? Oh, that was her. You ever seen these before? Van Helsing asked. Anna shook her head, clearly as revolted as he was. What do you think they are? Van Helsing stepped up to the closest one. The realization was instantaneous. Offspring. What? She asked. A man living with 3 gorgeous women for 400 years? He cocked his eyebrow and waited for that to sink in. So, Dracula is using Frankenstein's tech to bring his dead baby farm to life.
Well, let's see. Vampires are the Walking Dead. It only makes sense that their children are born dead, she said.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I don't even want to know how that birthing process works. These eggs, and there's quite a lot of them, and they're pretty big, and they definitely, we're told, come from the brides. So, is it like the Xenomorph Queen situation? Oh, no, God, no, I don't want to know.
I thought, vampires reproduce by biting other people.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole metaphor.
Wasn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, that's... you guys don't even know how vampires work. Fuck you guys.
And look, here's a beautiful baby now.
Making the hole larger, he could finally see it from the outside, the small, almost human-looking face of a bat creature. A bat boy, if you will.
Bat boy!
It looked like the monsters he had faced earlier that day, but rounder and stockier. Its eyes were large, dark, and lidless. A hairy pig snout sat over a gaping mouth filled with rows of tiny, razor-sharp teeth that were mottled and green.
So the babies all go batshit and attack everybody. Dracula appears and reveals that he and Helsing have a past. You can do Dracula.
I got to get into the stupid accent. But there's much more than that. You and I go back a long way, Gabriel. I know why you have such horrible nightmares. The horrific scenes of ancient battles past. Do you know how you received those triangular scars on your back?
Really aggressive game of trionomers.
What the hell is that?
It's like dominoes, but they're triangles. Oh. But Dracula's exposition is interrupted. Helsing escapes. Carl rescues a barmaid and is a total creep. In Carl's second biggest surprise of the day, the barmaid wrapped her arms around him and kissed him on the cheek. How can I ever repay you? She asked. Carl smiled and leaned down to whisper some suggestions into her ear. She looked shocked, but not displeased. But you can't do that. You're a monk, she said. I love that when a stranger whispers all the dirty things he would like to do to you straight after meeting. You think that saving someone's life is just like a basic humanitarian sort of thing, that's what you should do.
Yeah.
But I think to go, well, now you owe me sexual favours is, yeah.
And this is a barmaid, keep in mind. She's not a prostitute.
Yes. She's paying her way through university. It's not cool. And then Helsing and Anna get a little bit creepy too.
Anna just scowled, breathing hard. Van Helsing's dark eyes stared at her. He liked being this close to her. So he is a man after all, she thought. Don't give me that look. I don't need your wolf's eyes undressing me. She pulled herself away and stared off into the rain. Not right now, anyway. Fuck off.
I'm going to turn into Monster Caligula any second now. And sure enough, yeah, Helsing bangs Anna and Carl bangs the barmaid. We just get the morning after scene. And I'm just hoping this will give them all the stamina and confidence they need to succeed in Act 3. Carl was shocked and backed away, stumbling, knocking the entire couch over. He landed on the barmaid's semi-nude body. Instantly awake and immediately angry, she shoved him off. When Carl looked up again, he wondered if he had imagined the whole thing. The barmaid gathered her clothes in a huff. "Friars, monks, priests, you're all the same," she said. Of course, that was incorrect. There were some very real differences between each group, and even more between the various orders within each group, but Carl decided that this was not the right time to try to explain that to her. Be thankful for small mercies, I guess. We escaped that one. So then they fall into a cavern and they find...
The monster stood there, motionless. It was human in form, or less, very tall, with extremely pale skin, and looked as if it had been sewn together by a child in several places. Finally, someone calls out the fact that Victor's sewing skills are pretty rubbish.
No seamstress.
A rough scar ran across its forehead, and as far as Van Helsing could see, around the rest of its completely bald head. There were other scars that Van Helsing saw on its body through the rags and that the creature wore. It looked at least as much animal as man, but it wore an iron brace that ran the length of its entire right leg, which made Van Helsing wonder. Then he caught sight of something even more baffling, a glowing circular green crystal of all glass, a piece of glass, I'm gonna start again. A glowing circular green crystal or a piece of glass set in roughly where a human heart could be.
Yes.
Should be, yes.
Yes. A glowing circular green crystal or piece of glass set in roughly where a human heart would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Editing.
There we go.
You're not gonna do any, are you?
No, I'm not going to do any editing.
No, keep it raw, keep it real.
Sunday morning, hungover. However, this is good. This they kind of got right. Monster! The creature boomed. Who is the monster here? Van Helsing tried to clear his head as the thing lifted Anna off the floor. "I have done nothing wrong, and yet you and your kind all wish me dead." The voice was indignant. The creature sounded remarkably articulate, considering its form. Thank you, an articulate creature. That's what we want in the book.
Yeah.
He is articulate and eloquent, just like Victor, because he done book learnings.
The creature is legitimately a good effort. The design is perhaps the closest to accurate that we've seen on screens in terms of this hideous giant. He's huge. Although he's a little bit more steampunk and he lacks a long black hair, but he's articulate, not quite Mary Shelley articulate, but, considering the movie standards, points for trying, guys. It makes me even more disappointed that he's not more a feature of this story. His subplot does not go anywhere.
Yeah, and the Mary Shelley one just does not shut up.
Yeah, he goes on.
He would have filibustered for an hour just in this scene. But don't get too excited. They team up. A bride attacks, the werewolf attacks. There's all this mind-numbing flying and fighting and biting. Velkin / the werewolf dies again.
Who cares?
Because that prick Helsing shoots him.
Yeah, whatever.
And Helsing uses his trademark charm.
Her blows were strong, fueled by rage and grief. At first he accepted them, but then Van Helsing grabbed her by the wrists and held her tightly. Now you know why they called me a murderer.
Yeah, because she never would have guessed by herself that it was because he murders people. Now you know why they call me the Slayer, not just because I slayed your pussy last night. Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Okay, so look, Helsing was bitten. He was bitten by the werewolf, so he too will turn into a werewolf soon.
Doesn't make him any more interesting or likable.
But it's Halloween. It's Halloween in the story, even. So they all go to a masquerade ball.
And the Phantom of the Opera shows up.
And I'm hoping this is going to be the final showdown. Not quite, though. And Dracula gets all Jareth the Goblin King on Anna.
Dracula spun her on the dance floor and said, "How does it feel to be the puppet on my string?"
He has all the lines, this Dracula guy. "You make my skin crawl." "That's not all I could do with your skin," he replied. Dracula took a position behind her, gently caressing her neck. I guess he could make a creepy lamp or something out of it.
Oh, Ed Gein, you can get quite creative with skin.
Make it work. And then more Helsing charm.
Van Helsing grabbed Carl by the throat now and lifted him off his feet, barely resisting the urge to squeeze him.
Chapter 11, in which Van Helsing chokes his second bitch. And so Helsing turns into a elf and defeats Dracula. I wish I could just say that. I was like,
Yep.
At this point, can we just say he turns into a elf and defeats Dracula? Isn't that satisfying to the audience?
It's
We don't
done.
have to have more details than that.
It's done.
But look, Helsing does actually run around for many, many pages, charged by what they describe as the venom of the wolf. So he's got heightened wolf senses, and he's acting all savage, but he's not actually transformed. So he's Wolverine?
Yeah, is that the sole reason they cast him?
And here's a really dumb sentence.
Van Helsing's ears told him that the Count was speaking the truth.
Finally, though, a red mist descended over his eyes and he sensed something within him swelling, at first small but powerful, then large and overwhelming. Suddenly it seemed as if his skin could no longer contain him, and he felt himself expanding, shedding something unimportant as he grew in power and rage. That happens every morning for me when I wake up.
Good lord.
And he fights Dracula as a wolf, and then he becomes human again, and it looks like Drac has got the upper hand. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be like Teen Wolf, where he's a really great basketballer when he's the wolf, but then he has to prove that he can do it as a human, even though he's only 4 feet tall, because he's Michael J. Fox. But then...
He's the same height as me.
No, the clouds shift, and he's a wolf again, and he bites the shit out of Dracula's throat, which is a method of killing vampires, apparently.
Oh yeah, vampires and werewolves, man. This eternal war, they can defeat each other.
The questions about Helsing's past are not answered. You know how Dracula teased, I know all this stuff. Didn't happen, which makes me go, were they really hoping for a sequel at this point? I guess they were.
Oh my god, there are so many movies, especially around this time, that have that sequel bait. Oh.
And Carl manages to cure Helsing with a syringe. I think he cures him. But not before Helsing totally murders Anna while in werewolf shape. And the ending, up to the ending.
Finally.
Is him burning her body just to make no mistake that he killed her.
Yep.
As he watched the pyre burn, he saw the smoke swirl and move. Tendrils of smoke wafted out like wispy fingers and lifted his chin up with a force that was irresistible, even though it was invisible. For a moment, he thought he recognized the touch, the strength. Anna wasn't gone, not yet. He saw a face in the smoke. Van Helsing had no doubt that she was with him. The face smiled and floated up to the reddening dawn sky.
Oh, there are ghosts in this too?
Stunned, he took a step forward, wanting to follow. Then he saw something that stopped him where he stood. There were other faces with Anna's. Van Helsing recognized Velkin and Anna's father, a woman who must have been her mother, might have been the mistress, and others. The entire Valerius line. Anna's father hugged her. Her mother was tending to her hair, ghost hair. Velkin was beaming his love and pride.
Was this like the end of Star Wars?
Yeah. Anakin was there. Anna's past and future merged into one, and Van Helsing saw that she was happy, felt that she was so happy that he'd murdered her.
Yeah.
And then he understood her final gift, a feeling of peace that descended on him, peace and hope for him, for a giant of a man on a small raft in a very large sea, for everyone. Van Helsing felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find that Carl was witnessing the vision too. Anna gave him one last look, her radiant eyes beaming with happiness, with hope, with all possibility. And finally, she and the rest of her family ascended into the dawn sky. Her fight was over. She had come out on the other side, the brighter side. As the pyre burned to embers, Van Helsing and Carl saddled up 2 of the horses. Mounting his stallion, Van Helsing patted the strong black horse, feeling its strength. Transylvanian steeds, he thought, nothing faster. With Carl beside him, Van Helsing rode through an endless golden wheat field, which turned red in the spreading light of the morning sun. And the moral of the story is spend a night with Helsing, wake up with a burning sensation in the morning.
Yep. And the other moral of this story is that if you want a great monster crossover movie, just watch Monster Squad, honestly.
At least that is a werewolf getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah. And scary German guys bitching.
So, gotta ask, was the book better?
I'll say the movie is better simply because having to read bland, repetitive action scenes is even worse than having to watch bland, repetitive action scenes. On the other hand, you do have to deal with obnoxiously camp vampires, but yeah, I'll say the movie's better.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the movie. I don't mind some of the visuals.
I think the biggest problem with Van Helsing is that it can't decide on the right tone. Same thing with the Fantastic Four. Is it this modern action film, or is it this campy homage to the classic Universal horror films? The closest comparison I could think of is Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. For all its problems, it's at least enjoyable, and I quite like it. Tim Burton is a huge fan of the old Hammer horror films, and he was even overjoyed to have Christopher Lee involved, so he's really, paying respect to those films. The movie's suitably weird and dark and camp, and they even went to the effort of replicating the exact same vibrant shade of blood. And there's a clear passion there, where Van Helsing just seems like a studio tried to cash in on The Mummy's success. The Mummy, by the way, we tried watching that again recently, and it's dull. I liked those as a kid, but as an adult, especially as one who has played Uncharted, they're bland and cliche. It's all rubbish. Just Stephen Sommers, crap.
Well, none of these films that we're talking about here are character-driven.
No.
The characters don't come first. It's all the other nonsense is supposed to, be enough. And it's not enough. If we had really strong characters, you would happily go along with them, whatever the adventure was. I think, Avengers and stuff proved that. You can have really silly villain plots.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy is the best.
Yeah, and MacGuffins and all that sort of crap. But if the characters are really strong and we care about them, then we'll go on whatever adventure they want to go on, and that just doesn't happen here.
It makes me more appreciative of the films we have right now. We do have some really great genre and action films. It's great.
I am going to read some Amazon reviews to wrap us up. These are
my best part.
some people that read the book. I have not seen the film that this novel is based upon, but by itself, this is one of the best supernatural fictions that I have read in years. The writing is tight and skillful, especially the action scenes. This is a big step above the usual quality of movie novelizations.
Did they read the same book?
Nope! You are wrong.
On everything, good lord.
Here's another one. Never a dull paragraph. This writer keeps you reading and entertained. You gotta read it.
What?
Nope. Here's another one. Was fun to read after watching the movie and followed the movie pretty well. Played the CD while I read. Fun the seller and Amazon got both quickly in good condition.
What?
Nope. Here's one. Dude, the book was better than the movie because I couldn't mentally picture what was going on. That's not a good sign for a book. The movie had more action, but it still had a lot of confusion in it. The book was awesome. I would rate it 5 stars. The movie I ate would rate 6 star.
Oh, this final one.
I can't understand that one. Okay, and this last one. I got so excited and I felt the blood rushing to my face when I was reading Van Helsing that I almost hyperventilated. It's that prodigious. It was like thinking that it's even scarier because it's a true story too or something. One word, intense. I don't think it was based on a true story.
It's based on a true story or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god, these are the best Amazon reviews I think we've ever had.
It really happened.
Wow.
So there you go. That was Huge Jackman's Van Helsing.
I think that really does legally constitute as an episode.
It does. So thank you very much for listening. Please listen to the other shows. Go through the Book Was Better archives. Do check out FPcast every Monday. Jacinta and myself talk about the week in pop culture. We talk about movies we've seen, news, trailers, all that sort of stuff. Check that out. Find out everything that we're doing at fruitlesspursuits.com. There are 4 shows that actually happen. Star WTF is back, which is our American friends doing their Star Wars podcast. And I also have chronicled every Scarlett Johansson film so far and have talked about her performance and female roles in films and all sorts of things. I've analysed all those and that's been a lot of fun as well. So check that out. Thank you to our subscribers on Patreon who continue to support us. I'm putting those funds at the moment into advertising and trying to grow the brand and get more people listening. Anything you guys can do to help spread the word to anyone you think are interested, forums that you're members of, anywhere you think it'll be appreciated, or even if you rate and review on iTunes, which gives us more exposure. These things are really important. We've been delivering this product for a long time now and not really doing our share of promoting it. So I'd like to see that all change. I mean, we've got the thing. Let's get it out there. Let's get it into people's ears, noses, any open, unprotected part of their body. Let's slip some of this in.
I think that got the message across.
Okay, great. So, and thank you for returning, Courtney. It wouldn't be Halloween without your presence.
Hell yeah, and hope you guys all have a happy Halloween.
A happy Halloween!
Probably more exciting than the one I'm having. I have no idea what's going to happen on Halloween, but, it's Perth, so probably not much.
And then another spooky tale next week. I'm going to be doing Haunted Spaceship movie Event Horizon.
Oh god.
And there is a new guest host for that one, the lovely Paris. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That movie is just rubbish.
No, well, we will find out.
Lawrence Fishburne, why?
He really burns my fish. Okay.
Sam Neill, I can understand. He'll say yes to anything.
Yeah, he really nails my Sam. Alright, that's it. That's a show. Happy Halloween, wherever you are. And,
Catch you on the flips.
Ghost Manji.